Okay, so this is a pretty ridiculous thing to be doing, right? You would be right. But how many times have you done this in your real life, perhaps not so painfully, in a similar way? You take an action, you get a result, you take it again, and you expect to get a new one. Yeah, that sounds a little bit like some of my freelance career. Okay, you get the metaphor. I'll do better next time. Hello everyone, I'm Simon. Today I'm going to share with you 15 simple lessons that have helped me as a creative person in my freelance career. So wherever you are at in your career or in your work, if these tips and ideas that I've collected along the way can be as helpful to you as they have certainly been to me, then they might just help you create more meaningful work, lead a more meaningful and happy creative career, and, you know, live better in the process. On this channel, we collect tips, tools and ideas to help creative people like you and like me to live more intentional, stress-free lives and create better content. Consider subscribing for more videos like this and, you know, support the channel. I'm making this video in support of a really important movement that's happening at the moment. It's called Freelancers Make Theatre Work. It's a UK-based initiative, but I think it counts for a lot of people all around the world at the moment. It's difficult times. The arts and culture are under real threat from the restrictions that we're finding are happening in 2020. So do check out the hashtag for Freelancers Make Theatre Work. It's a brilliant movement and they're campaigning for the arts and to support for the millions and hundreds of thousands of creative freelancers that make that in the industry's work. Right, 15 simple lessons for creative people that might just help you lead a happier and more successful creative career. Number one, call yourself an artist, or a filmmaker, or an actor, or a designer, whatever it is, but own it. We're all gonna feel that sense of fear. We're all gonna feel that imposter syndrome at one point or another. You've got to collaborate with fear. Anxiety, I think, and fear are usually a sign that you're progressing and finding a way forward. So embrace it, own it, call yourself an artist. Number two, start now. What you do daily is what counts, not what you do occasionally. I've recently been experimenting with the idea that I just want to do 3 simple things in the direction of where I'm going with my creative work or a project or whatever it is. But actually by doing that, so they can be small or they can be big, but it's that consistency I think that actually allows you to get somewhere. So just start and make sure you're making a small amount of progress every day. That's not about putting extra pressure on yourself, right? It's not about, oh God, I've got to do the 3 things. It's not about that. It's about going, well, okay, what do? I sent an email today, thought about an idea, and maybe you read a paragraph of a book. That, to start with, might be enough. On other days, you might do a lot more. Number 3, create an inbox for ideas. This is inspired by David Allen, who wrote Getting Things Done, a really brilliant productivity book, but one that has absolutely enabled me to be more creative. The idea is, as he says, your brain is for having ideas, not for holding them. So what does that say to you? Well, to me, it says I need somewhere to put the stuff I gather and the ideas I have and the things I need to do so I can put them down and know that they'll come back to me. I trust it'll come back to me. But right now, I've cleared space for me to be able to have ideas and think and be creative. It's taken the burden of holding on to everything away from this brain and put it in a different one. And cultivating, because of it, something I'm going to share with you in the future, the idea of a bibliography of inspiration, that idea I've stolen from the company I've worked for quite a long time, but it's also a brilliant system for me to collect great bits of content that I've consumed. You can see a bit of that on bettercreating.com, where I'm also going to share a template that I use in Notion to collect ideas and do that. But also, the inbox is about tasks. It's about every time you have something come up in your head, you know, when you have to hold on to it, I can just go into Notion, drop it in there and worry about it later on and know that once I've processed it, it'll come back to me. Those systems are the things we fall back on, they're the things that really help us. So make space to have ideas by creating an inbox. Number 4, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Okay, so I obviously don't mean it like that. What I do mean though is if you're progressing and you're trying new things and you're daring to take creative ideas or projects or thoughts in new directions, those places and maybe those new jobs are gonna feel uncomfortable. We need to be all right at being okay in the uncomfortable space because it's where great things happen. There's a voice coach that I once met, and she said, I'd suggest to you that nothing of any worth in your life has ever come through comfort. It's always had form. So whether that be glorious and beautiful and exciting, or full of doubt, or being difficult or problematic, to get somewhere new, it's cost you something to do it. You know, it might be asking someone out on a date, it might be trying something new, daring to ask for something in a job. So all great creative processes should be a little bit uncomfortable, and to that extent, a bit messy and ugly and not quite right until you get there. So embrace the uncomfortable. Number 5, own what you're good at. Try writing down, I am good at ... See how many times you can answer that statement. Why are we so bad at talking about what we're good at? I'm really bad at saying, I can do that, I'm good at that. And often I fear seeming like I'm lacking humility. I don't think it necessarily means that if you do it in the right way, but you're doing it for you as much as you are for the people you work with. By owning what you're good at, you can actually, it helps people let you do it and hopefully pay you to do it as well. But it also empowers you and the people you're working with to do better, because you can do it and go, I've got that, let me cover that. It empowers your collaborators to take up the jobs and the space around it. Number 6, I've got a little rule that I picked up from a brilliant director. Always have 3 reasons to take a job. Now those reasons can be really different, but you need to know what the 3 reasons are. Sometimes they might not actually even be that they're massively fulfilling you artistically, because what they might be doing is paying you really well. You might be working with someone really brilliant that you can learn from. But equally, the reasons I might take a job might be, okay, there's no money, there's hardly any money, but it's right on something I have to make. It's going to be meaningful and have an impact. It doesn't matter what it is, you just need to know it. I think when we start out, we're really bad at that. We say yes to everything, and you know what? A lot of the time you feel like you have to, and you probably do. I know, I needed the money. But I think what happened for me is I then just kept saying yes. It just leads to burnout. I start being, because I'm not being intentional about the work that I'm taking, I found I was burning out, overworking, not being as fulfilled in what I was doing, and kind of questioning the whole point of why I was doing it there in the first place. So saying no can be really empowering, because it's about asking yourself, what do I actually want to be spending my time doing? What is really essential in the work that I'm doing? It actually leads me on to this next point. Number 7, keep your career and your art separate. It's a funny one, isn't it? They'll eventually come together. That's the idea. So let me explain what happened. When I was about 19, 20, I was just starting out, and I had a coffee with a really kind of big agent. And then they said, well, let me see if I can help you and give you a bit of advice. So I went and had this coffee, and their advice was that, keep your career and your art separate. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, if you are taking a job to do both of those, it's going to be very hard to find it, particularly to start with. But if you know that this is where your passion is, this is how you're finding your voice, this art is what you really want to create, you can do that on a certain set of terms. But then there's other jobs, it might be on a project that isn't the kind of work you would make, but it might be with an incredibly talented collaborator and a leader of that project that you're learning from. It might get you into an industry and into kind of a scale of work that you might not otherwise get. It might pay you really well. All of those things are really valuable. And then ultimately the idea is that as you work, you're able to bring those 2 things together. And it really enabled me to say yes or to say no to jobs. So yeah, take it, use it if it's helpful. Share it with a friend if they might want to hear it. Really simple. Number 8, be early and show up. Such a bad joke. Pretty obvious, but you know what? That goes further probably than anything else. If you're the person that shows up, For yourself, when you're working on your own, get up, start at a time, or for other people, you're there 15 minutes before you need to be. Talent is incredibly valuable, but hard work trumps it every time. Number 9, enjoy the conversations. The most meaningful relationships that I've built and the most kind of authentic, genuine jobs and projects that I've been a part of have started with conversations, and there's not been an ask. I think it's so easy, you know, to go into that interview, into that phone call, that coffee meeting, whatever it is, and kind of be the person asking, writing the email, yeah, that's like, this is what I'm looking for. I think by genuinely having interest in learning about what someone's thinking about, what they're doing, how they're doing it, and sharing what you're thinking about, what you're doing and how you're doing it, the two of you can meet. It's like, a friend of mine calls it professional flirting. There's nothing wrong with that. Allow that to happen. People, I think, invest in people. Oh God, that's a classic, isn't it? But they do, they invest in the relationships. And if you're someone they go, okay, I could spend some time with you, they might want to do that again. 10, put up your rate. Okay, trust me on this one, putting up your rate. So if you have been working for a little bit and you have a rate or whatever it is, just ask yourself this simple question. If you were to double your rate, what would happen? For me, I was like, okay, I might kind of get half the jobs, but then I'd be doing half the amount of jobs for twice the money. So I'd be earning the same amount of money and I'd have halved the amount of time I was spending. Interesting. Just something to think about. Now, maybe you don't go that far, but I think that's one of those real challenges, isn't it, as a freelancer, is kind of understanding what you should charge. I think when I started out in projects, I'm kind of going, I'll do it for 100 quid or whatever. Sometimes just asking and just going, well, look, this is, knowing your value, I think is really important. And as you go on, there'll be those little kind of plateaus, I think, and I'm finding it at the moment where I have to kind of shift my perspective on actually what that value is to the people I'm working with, but also what it is to me. So yeah, an interesting one, particularly for the, you know, the kind of contractors out there. If you were to double your rate, what would happen? Number 11, you have to plan. You can never plan. This is an idea that was shared with me by a really beloved mentor of mine. They're a wonderful person that's really supported me through my career. And their idea is plan, have systems. Something I want to look at a little bit again in the future on another video about the idea of productivity and planning and how we plan and organise the work that we do. And David Allen, again, in Getting Things Done, talks about this. It's really brilliant. The natural way of planning something is the big idea at the top and then the basics of how you do it at the bottom. But often I think we find ourselves doing all the basics and running around and then eventually going, oh, how do we, what are we trying to do here? Yeah, what is the goal at the top? So you have to plan because you need to have a clear vision and a clear strategy and then the implementation of it so that day to day you can do things in a meaningful way, knowing you're going in the right direction. The other end of that is you can never plan because things change. If you're trying to control something so tightly, you're not allowing for new ideas, new surprises. You know, being surprised and allowing the processes and strategies we use to create work to allow us to be surprised. That's about being open, it's about collaboration with yourself, with fear, with when things go wrong, with other people, whatever it is, but it's allowing you to make better work. So being agile and being able to shift and change is just as important as having a plan in the first place. What's your suggestions for that? How do we get better at it? Add your comments on any of these points in the comments below. It'd be great to start a conversation. 12. Work with people who are better than you. Really simple idea. If you work with people who are better than you, you learn. They do what they do better than you, so you're not trying to do it for them. And you know, you're freeing yourself up to trust the collaborators and the people you're working with. So, you know, aim upwards. 13, the best idea in the room wins. Doesn't matter where it comes from. If you've empowered your collaborators and if you've empowered yourself by working with the right people, then everyone will feel like they can say when they think they've got the solution. Best idea in the room wins. It's a great mantra. 14, hang around, play the long game. It's been quite a while for me since I started out. I still feel like I'm doing it now, which is funny. It doesn't really change, does it? You know, starting this channel and is a whole new thing. There was a director that I met early on who I was kind of like, wow, how are you where you're at? You're making these huge projects, you're really well respected in the industry, you're clearly like earning a proper living from being an artist, which is not the easiest thing to do always, you know. And he said, to be honest with you, I just was still there after 8 years when everyone else had given up. So that's that. But also, play the long game. Don't be in a rush to do it. Actually, be focused on the quality of experience you're having, enjoying the work that you're doing, and making great work. And then actually showing it to people. If you make great work and you show your work and you do that carefully and in a meaningful way, then you'll get somewhere. You know, consistency and persistence, two key things for doing this kind of thing, YouTube, but pretty much true for most arts, so hang around. Number 15, find balance and make sure you enjoy it. Hey, that's a bit of a, hey, look after yourself. It might be a bit corny, but you know, it's very, very true. I have this idea that the catalyst to being productive and getting somewhere with what you're doing is joy. If you're enjoying it, it will make you do it more. It'll make you do it better, and it'll allow you to find ease and intention and pleasure in the work that you're doing. You have to have that. Taking a step away from the work, not getting into burnout or overworking yourself, is just as important as actually doing it and starting it in the first place. There's something called unconscious practice, which is stop thinking about it, go away from it. You're going to process things in the background and it's going to let you come back fresh and look at things again. So find balance and make sure that you're doing this work so that it's empowering you to live the rest of your life in an intentional way and a way you want to live it. I just want to finish by saying the conversations and reactions and communication that's happened after the first video that I put out on this channel has been really, really special to me. So thank you everyone that has communicated. It's a lonely, difficult time at the moment for a lot of creative people. We're all reflecting in 2020 and struggling with a really new world, really new challenges, whether we're completely overworked or completely without it. We all need to recognise that we're in it together and that we all have a similar set of challenges going on. So keep supporting the channel, you know, subscribe, share it with other friends, share these videos. Let's build a better creating community. That's why I'm doing it. I'm doing it to learn and I'm doing it to help others. That is the focus, so let's make it happen. Thanks for watching. That's it. Bye-bye.